Hey guys, Mr. Strategy here today for a new video. I have to say it's been a very long time since I've played any Hearthstone, or at least made any Hearthstone videos. That is because I lost interest in the game for a little while. I've also had to see what the new meta looked like, the Rise of the Shadows. But now I'm back, for now at least, and I'm going to do some more videos. The deck we're seeing today, as you can see here, is Darkest Hour, which is a new deck, a new archetype, which has surfaced in this after this new expansion, because it's only possible with a certain Rise of the Shadows card, and it's a very strong deck for Warlock. It's very strong, very uncompromising, and it's able to get you lots of victories, even against very strong decks. I don't know if it's actually meta. I'd say it is, but well, that's a bit controversial for the moment. So all I'm going to do is show it to you and let you forge your own opinion on the deck. Now, how does it work? Well, it's very simple. Really, the concept is very easy to understand. You have a deck in which there are two key sorts of cards. You have imp generators. So imps are 1/1 little demons that you can summon in large amounts with cards such as Reform Scheme or Fiendish Circle. And then you've got lots and lots of very big minions, very aggressive minions, such as Reckless Rocketeer, Charged Devilsaur, Ragnaros the Firelord, the Lich King, Mal'Ganis, Void Lord, and such big, valuable other minions. Now, what you're going to try and do is put lots of imps on the board. I'd say at least 4 to get a good combo. And once you have a nice amount of imps on the board, you're going to use this new card from the Rise of the Shadows expansion, which is a very good card in this case, and which is going to destroy the imps you have on the board, in which you generated for a small mana amount. And it's going to transform them, well, not exactly transform them, but it's going to replace them with an equal number of minions from your deck. And of course, since your deck contains such strong, aggressive minions, it's obviously going to be some very good minions you're going to get in exchange for those imps. So what you're going to do is try and just play as aggressively as possible by very early on in the game being able to generate a great board of very strong minions. Now, there are many variations of this deck, of course. The strategy in every one of these decks is always the same, but my deck focuses more on charge minions, because I think it's important to, once you've generated a strong board, to immediately be able to go face against your opponent, or if you're really in trouble concerning your health, to at least eliminate some enemy minions. So I've got lots of charge minions like Doom Guard, like Reckless Rocketeer, which is actually a pretty weak card in general, but which when combined with a Darkest Hour can be very strong. And Charged Devilsaur, which has charge, but which has a battle cry which prevents it to attack enemy heroes the turn it is played. However, since when it is summoned from the deck, the battle cry has no effect, it will have a normal charge if you gain it out of Darkest Hour. Now, there's also a Nerubian Unraveler, which is not a very strong card in itself, but it's mainly played so that once you get a strong board, that you can have Nerubian Unraveler in it, and that the opponent is going to have to play to pay spells 2 mana more to be able to remove your board, which often, if you get to play your combo in the early game, is going to be impossible for him. So, other than that, other than the imp summonings, the Darkest Hours, and the big powerful minions, I've also got removal, like Defile, which is a very strong removal card, Demon Wrath, Mortal Coil, and Sacrificial Pact, to be able to either destroy opponents' demons, which is always good while restoring health, or if you're really in trouble yourself, to be able to destroy one of your own demons, possibly an imp. And I also play Blood River Gul'dan, which is not the kind of card many people play in this deck, because they often say it's too slow, and normally either you get your combo early on in the game and you win, or you don't manage to get your combo and you lose. So Blood River Gul'dan is irrelevant in both cases. But I think it's actually a pretty good card to have, because when you play it and you haven't have the occasion to play your Darkest Hour yet, it's going to summon lots of imps, which is going to allow you to, even in the late game, pull off the strong combo in some rare cases. And even in the late game, the combo is so strong that it should be able to make you win. Now, to be able to pull off the combo as early as possible, you've also got 2 copies of Bloodbloom. And Bloodbloom's a very strong card in this case, because it allows you to play Darkest Hour as soon as turn 2, basically. Because once you play Bloodbloom, the next spell you play this turn costs health instead of mana, which means you can play a Darkest Hour while inflicting 6 damage to yourself, but which is not going to cost any mana. Now, obviously the deck has some disadvantages as well. If you don't get your Bloodblooms or mostly your Darkest Hours early enough in the game, then you're not going to be able to pull off your combo, which is going to mean you're going to have some very hard time winning the game, and it probably means a loss, let's be honest. If you don't get to play your combo soon enough, like if at turn 15 you still haven't had a Darkest Hour in your hand, then you've pretty much lost. But you have to try and make the most of it and get those Darkest Hours as soon as possible, either by drawing cards with your hero power or simply by trying to get it in your starting hand. And well, most of the time you should be able to get it recently enough. Now, the thing is, as I said, if you get your Darkest Hour and your Bloodblooms as soon as possible, it usually means a win, because generating such big boards is often lethal to your opponent, and if you don't, it usually means a loss. So therefore, it's really a very uncompromising deck. It's really all or nothing with this deck. But I have a decent win rate with it, so I think it's really worth showing. Especially if you know what you're doing, normally you should be able to influence well, your hand, basically, to get these Darkest Hours at the right time. Now, without further ado, let's go look at some games in which I play this deck.
Mecha Jaraxxus versus Anduin. The light shall bring victory.
You face Mecha Jaraxxus!
Okay, so here we go for our first battle, and we can immediately see that our hand is not too bad. We have a Darkest Hour in it, which we are absolutely going to keep, of course. We also have a Sacrificial Pact and Charged Devilsaur. Now, Charged Devilsaur we're definitely throwing away. We never need any of our big minions into our hand, and Sacrificial Pact is usually not that useful yet either, so we're going to replace it and hope to get Bloodbloom, some imp generation, or at least some removal instead. Now, since we're playing a priest, I suppose he's going to be playing Big Priest, because most priests do in Wild. But of course I'm not certain. If he is playing Big Priest, we should be able to beat him by playing our combo as quickly as possible. Now, for the moment we're having a pretty bad hand, because we've already got 3 big minions in it, and we want to have it as few as possible, of course. Now it's 4 big minions, and I'm not counting Voidcaller, because he's good to cheat big demons out of your hand, like Mal'Ganis, for example. This also isn't a good card, so we're just continuing to draw, seeing if we can get some imp generation and Bloodbloom. But we're being pretty unlucky for the moment. We've been very lucky with our Darkest Hour, but for the rest, it's only cards we'd rather see in our deck.
Tonight, a tale of long-lost worlds.
Okay, so there he goes.
Soldiers of the cold dark, obey the call of chaos.
Try to get some strong minions, or at least strong 1/1 copies of minions in their decks. Okay, now we get a strong demon on the board.
Tonight, a tale of terrible tragedy.
We are having a very rough time with our hand. I could play Doom God, but that's going to discard 2 cards in my hand, and that is absolutely not what I want, so I'm just continuing to draw. And finally we get a decent card, Reform Scheme, which should be able to get us some imps. But the problem with the Reform Scheme is, of course, that it takes a pretty long time to get strong because it upgrades every turn. So we're not going to be able to play it right away either. Or I'll add a Pink Circle, for example, which guarantees us 4 imps. Now we've still got 4 strong minions into our deck. We don't draw any of those. Okay, never mind. We just drew one of those. Okay. Well, how do I say this? It's not going good. I'm going to play Nerubian Unraveler just to keep any nasty spells at bay. Of course, it's also going to increase the cost of my own spells, but I don't see myself pulling off the combo anytime soon. So I think this is just like I said, it's all or nothing, and it seems like we're really getting lucky. We're being really unlucky with our draws. Of course, we have to empty our hand a little, so we sacrifice a minion. But our future definitely does not look bright in this battle. We haven't drawn anything. We've only drawn one imp generator. We've drawn almost all our big minions. Now only do we get a Blood Bloom, which means we can now pull off the combo with 4 imps. And well, I guess better late than never. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. Let's still get minions. The last 3 minions. Okay. At least we got a little bit there. So it's going to have to be these 3 minions that win us the game, or else it's going to be a loss. I think as a priest he's going to have, well, their cycles, so he can defend rather comfortably. And I'd say we've lost now, in all honesty. Well, of course, now we can just manually play our big minions, but playing them one by one like that is never really very threatening. While our opponent, of course, has such resurrection spells, which are going to help him revive big minions very much better than I do. Now I'm going to play some imp generation, because I'm hoping I can just pull off one more Darkest Hour before this game ends, if I am able to draw it swiftly enough. Now, of course, having 7 minions on the board is good for Darkest Hour, but we've only got 2 big minions into our deck. Actually, we've only got 2 minions into our deck, and that means any Darkest Hour from us is not really going to be very powerful. We're just going to have to give everything, and
I must
hope
consider
to rush him down. That's probably not going to happen.
Tonight, a tale of terrible tragedy.
The funny thing is he's only reviving Barnes, which is probably not what he wants, but I mean, he's probably a bit unlucky, but we're far more unlucky still, so well, that's just how it is. Perhaps we can steal a big minion from his deck, but that's not really going to change the result, I'm afraid. can now draw Darkest Hour. Hopefully. Oh yeah, he still has to play, he still has 10 mana. Okay, now we get a Mortal Core. Really getting all the bad cards here. Let's play Death Grip. And I think we can say it's pretty much. I'm just going to play on abandoning too soon the solution. I mean, yesterday I won a pretty nice battle where it seemed like I was lost.
Free of that blasted tower!
To save myself, which I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to do here, but, well, you know, there's a principle of not abandoning too soon.
Behold!
Now it's hard to so Gaddies can't save me. So we're just going to say well played and continue. Okay, so the first battle was disastrous. I had some very bad luck, which, as I said, is a key to this deck. You need to be lucky with your draws. It's an all or nothing. I got nothing, so I lost. Perfectly normal. Let's hope we get some better draws into the next game.
Mecha Jaraxxus versus Rexxar!
Let the hunt begin! You face Mecha Jaraxxus!
Okay, playing a hunter for a second battle. It could be a mech hunter. It could also be one of those hunter decks which has no minions, only spells. I don't really know. I think the hunter decks are pretty varied in Wild, so it's hard to say what you need for this. I'm just going to keep one removal, seems nice, and of course I'm banning all my big minions back to my deck and hoping to get Blood Blooms and Darkest Hours. And I have one Blood Bloom, which is good. So now I need Imp Generation and a Darkest Hour, and that would mean I can pull off my combo quickly enough. And from this card, I assume my opponent is playing Mech Hunter. Okay, so 3 big minions in hand. Not very nice. Would have hoped to get better.
Acquiring victim.
Alright. That shouldn't be such a problem for the moment. This is a good card. Happy to have it. Okay, Void Follower isn't that bad. Maybe we can cheat Mal'Ganis out of our hand later. He's probably just going to try and rush me down by magnetizing some mechs. It's a very aggressive deck he's playing. At least we've got some removal, which is good. Now I'm going to coin and get some imps on the board, as well as trying to remove some of his strongest minions. And I think
Job done!
If anything goes wrong in these early stages, I think I've got enough removal to survive. But I really need Darkest Hour to be able to make my own play going well. Okay, so I guess we're just going to be able to remove a lot of stuff now. Of course, it's deals damage to non-demon minions, not them to survive, which is quite good. Now I would say if I can get Darkest Hour on the next turn or the turn after that, I should win. If that is not going to be the case, then I think he's going to rush me down eventually. My health is already getting pretty low. Okay, now what do I want here? I think I'm going to play my Void Caller. Maybe his mech's going to die, kill my opponent. He's going to give me I get a void lord. Okay. The advantage is he doesn't have a big hand, so he doesn't have that many resources. So maybe, just maybe, we're going to be able to beat him in a more traditional style by just playing minions and beating him like that. Eliminate his to avoid him magnetizing other stuff on them. Okay. So my health is so bad right now that even if I did get a Darkest Hour, I wouldn't even be able to blood bloom on it, because that would mean I would have to commit suicide in order to get my Darkest Hour out. But well, that's okay. I think I'm going to have to play without Darkest Hour. I've got a good defensive minion, Void Lord. It should protect me for a while, which should mean he can only deal damage to me through his hero power. But of course, in 3 turns,
what is my purpose?
Now, my advantage would be
Can I help you, sir?
would make me
Let me get that.
immune to any damage as long as it's alive. Okay, now I have to eliminate this Jeeves, which is going to make him draw, which of course he will be very grateful for. So, Devil's Soul. Let's just eliminate as possible. But it's quite possible he now has some spell to kill me. I've only got 4 health, so yeah. But if I do survive this turn, I think our chances are very bright once I get Mal'Ganis out.
Can I help you, sir?
Okay.
Well fought. I can see. Well played.
So as you can see, this was pretty special. I didn't get my combo, I didn't get to cheat any big minions out of my deck. I actually played in a pretty traditional manner, killing his minions off, and then once I get lots of mana to be able to play bigger minions, and that was sufficient to beat him. So, of course, this is pretty rare. Normally, if you don't get your combo, you should lose. But here, I wasn't very lucky with my hand, and yet I did win. Mostly, I guess, because of the aggressive nature of my opponent's deck. Aggressive decks are often not pretty good in defense. And once I had a strong taunt minion on the board, like my Void Lord, he couldn't really get through. He had to rely on his hero power to deal damage to me, which was a little bit too slow. And well, in the end he got overpowered on the board, and he lost. So pretty nice. Let's see if I can just show you the combo in its full glory into the last game of this video.
Mecha Jaraxxus versus Jaina.
You asked for it.
You face Mecha Jaraxxus!
Okay, so here we go for the final battle of this video. And, well, for the moment our starting hand doesn't look too bad, but also not too good. We're playing a mage, which often means some kind of aggressive burn mage, coupled with a couple of secrets to defend herself. So we have to be careful. I'm going to throw away the removal. I don't think we need it. Of course, we're keeping the imp generator. And crossing our fingers for Darkest Hour and or Blood Bloom. And we have Mal'Ganis and another Defile, which is not very good. I don't mind the Void Caller. Mortal Coil, not great. And here we have a Darkest Hour. So, well, we're being pretty lucky for the moment.
I serve the Fire Lord.
This is one of those mages that throws as many spells as possible, coupled with Flame Wakers, which are going to also try and burn our face. Definitely not the kind of deck you want to linger against, because
We have
the
many
chances of us
secrets.
reaching a late game in this battle are really small.
From the void I come.
I have a strong suspicion that the secret is playing a counter spell.
And let the command!
We cannot play our imp generators or our darkest towers however we want. So we have to first play a small spell like this one to activate the counter spell. There we go. And then I suppose we should be able to remove successfully. How though? Well, it's simple with foil. Like this.
To the void.
And then a defile. We get no damage from the board, so we can't complain. But I'd still like to get my Darkest Hour combo in as quickly as possible.
Whoops.
An incredible discovery!
Okay, so Rocketeer. It's pretty good.
I'm flying!
Job done.
Okay. So now at least he or she doesn't have any secrets left on the battlefield. But there comes another. Playing against these decks, if you don't have your combo, these aggressive mage decks is just really tough. On the bright side, here's our Blood Bloom, which should mean we can pull off our combo this turn with Fiendish Circle, Blood Bloom and Darkest Hour. But the big danger now, of course, is that his or her secret is a counter spell, which would mean our combo would be ruined. But I have to say, if we don't pull off our combo now, we'll probably lose anyway, so I think we have to go with it. Okay, it's not a counter spell, so that's great. And what do I do? I think I'm just going to go face. Now our game looks pretty good, but of course we shouldn't forget it's a burn mage, so they specialize in aggressive spells to blow your face off. Okay, this one clearly doesn't have any. So, you win. Okay. So, as you saw, this was the last game into the video. It's always very complicated. I have to say the games I played today were more on the unlucky side. I have to admit I played more games than 3 to make this video, and I lost more games than I won. While before making this video I had a win rate of 60% with Darkest Hour. Now I only have a win rate of about 56 or 57%. Anyway, just to say, I had a pretty unlucky day today with Darkest Hour. Still managed to win these 2 games. But as you saw, it's always very double-edged. It's always an all or nothing fight. If you don't get to play your combo soon enough, you lose. If you do, it's often going to be at the cost of some health. But the sooner you play it, the more complicated it should be for your opponent to defend. And normally if you get a Darkest Hour successful Darkest Hour on turn 4 or 5, you should have an auto win against just about any deck. So a very fun deck, very aggressive, with a win rate really depending on your luck. But I would recommend it, if only just for the fun factor, because it's just a nice deck to play. Thank you for watching. This was Mr. Strategy, and I'm going to be trying to make another wild video in about 2 weeks, maybe a little more, I don't know. We'll see. Goodbye.